So there's a couple different philosophies about making change and transformation in our lives. There's many different paths to evolving and alchemizing ourselves as spiritual beings. And there's definitely this frame of thought in the self-improvement, self-development space that is like, you have to basically be a drill sergeant on yourself, be very militant, be super highly disciplined. Discipline is important, but it's like be super disciplined. You have to do this, 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 this. You don't have any compassion with yourself. You have to literally force, push, 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 push. And, that is one way to look at it. That is one way to look at it. But you have to ask yourself, when coming from that point of view, at what cost? What is the cost to go about things in such a militaristic manner? What is the cost to drop your compassion and your connection with self in order to force change? Force, push, difficult, hard. These are all words that invoke struggle. Then there's another frame of thought, and it's more about self-love and self-compassion and giving yourself the space and the time to evolve, but doing it with grace, doing it with ease, doing it with flow, more of surrender, taking into account all of these more gentler states of being. And I think in our society, we tend to a lot of times equate gentle with weak, equate vulnerability with weak. And this is a false assessment of the truth and frequency of these concepts, because when we really pull back the layers and pull back the programming, that gentleness can actually be a lot closer to nature than we may perceive. Humanity tends to oftentimes, because it's a self-aware species, it gets lost in overthinking and overanalyzing and the complexity of our minds, when we could learn a lot from other beings and other species. And if we just took time sometimes to observe nature and attune to the natural world around us, and we could learn a lot about how we could better model our own behavior to where in the appropriate situations it would be more beneficial and better than forcing and pushing. You don't see the tree outside forcing itself to grow another inch or two. You don't see it forcing its leaves to fall off so that it can get on with the next season. We don't see that. They're just taking cues from nature and going with that innate flow, that internal wisdom that they hold onto, that genetic blueprint that instead of fighting against their genetics, instead of fighting against their DNA and their makeup, they flow with it. They surrender into their nature instead of pushing against nature. And I think this is so important to make this distinction, because given that our consciousness is fragmented within, we have these conscious parts, living, feeling, sentient parts of us within that have been cut off from the whole, that have been separated, the pain of fragmentation. And they create these extremes within us, these polarities, these one-sided driving forces within us. And the thing is, all of these parts in truth are only trying to protect us. They're only trying to keep the best interest of the being in mind. However, it is from their point of experience. Now, a lot of these parts have become themselves because of the trauma they've been through, because of the experience they've been through, because of the pain they've endured. So their only point of reference in life is what they've experienced. And, scientifically, they talk about how when trauma happens psychologically, if that trauma is not processed in that moment, that part of the being just sort of stops and freezes and gets stuck in the past. It stops evolving. It stops growing. That's why some people are like stuck in childhood or stuck developmentally at a certain age, because they're just, that pain was not processed way far in the past, and it caused a halt in their development because their psyche got stuck back there. Parts of them are still 3 years old, 8 years old. And a lot of this happens between the ages of 0 and 8. And this can even happen in the womb. I mean, when you're still in the womb, you are taking on and picking up the essence of your mother. And if your mother's frequency, if she's going through pain, if she's going through trauma, if her frequency is at a level that is not optimal in terms of the natural state of being, you're going to pick that up and take that on, or at least observe that and create mechanisms and parts of you that are going to protect you from this harsh and scary environment that you now perceive as the world and the experience, because that's your only point of reference. So these parts are stuck. They're stuck in the past. They're cut off. They're separate. And they are only doing what they can to help. Now, here's my question to you. If you come in with this forceful mechanism of change, you say, we are going to get from point A to point C. We're going to skip B, and we are going to do it in the most disciplined manner. We are going to not allow any ease. It's going to be like this. You leave no room for spirit to work in your life. You are saying, I am going to come in and control everything. I'm going to come in and dominate the situation, when really this life is a co-creation. It's a collaboration. It is between you and your 3D avatar perspective here and your higher self. Your higher self, that source energy, that higher intelligence, that divinity within you. It's within you. But that's not the perspective that these two eyes see through. That's the perspective that this eye sees through. And it's only in the merge, in the collaboration between the two, where the magic happens. Trying to do it all yourself from your little earthly perspective, that's a whole lot of pressure. And you can't possibly have the information and the ability and the magic and the opportunity and be tapping into all of the breadcrumbs and synchronicities and divine information that this part is leading you on your own. No, it's a merge, it's a union, it's a unity consciousness of these perspectives of us. And the more that we learn to surrender to that, the greater the power becomes. The more that we're able to surrender and settle into the present moment and find the magic in the moment also, the more our power heightens. It's almost like the more you let go of that 3D egoic control, which the ego wants to control. It wants to hold on for dear life. But the more you let go, if you are tapped into the true self, to the all, to your divinity, then you realize that surrender is actually liberation. So when we are trying to change or evolve or create some sort of means to an end or transform ourselves in some way, to come in and think that we are just going to lay it all out and control every little thing and come in with a disciplinarian standpoint and a force, not a power, but a force, that goes against your very nature in itself. And we have to ask ourselves, at what cost? What is the damage that we are doing? Because for every thought, for every feeling, for every action, there's a reverberation within us and without, because that's a shift in frequency. So everything that we experience changes due to everything. Cause and effect. Every little thing has an effect. There's a sequence and chain of events that we are so unaware of because most of our behavior is completely and totally subconscious. But everything is connected. Every little thing you do, say, think, feel, there's an effect to that. And if we are forcing our way, if we are not having loving compassion, if we are shunning the parts of ourselves that we don't want to pay attention to at any given time, what is the cost of that? What is the damage that we are doing to those internal fragments? We're abandoning self. We're saying you don't matter. We're saying, okay, my priorities right now are far outweigh your existence. Goodbye. That's called suppression. That's called denial. That's called sweeping it under the rug and shoving it away until we get to a point where it becomes too big of a monster and too loud and too chaotic of a force that we have to deal with it. So my point here is the power is in the self-love. The power is in the self-compassion. The power is in being gentle. And the greatest power, it's really in understanding. Because if you can understand the parts of you that are giving you pushback, that are giving resistance, that are fighting against what you are trying to accomplish or do, if you can really feel into and understand those parts, channel them. Let them speak out loud. Or journal. Let them write. Let your subconscious talk. Let them speak. Let them release. Get that energy out. Not only are you then releasing the energy, you're getting it out of your body, you're getting it unstuck, untrapped, but you're also gaining such a great understanding of these parts. And with understanding comes empathy. And with empathy comes much more conscious action, intentional action. And when we understand somebody, we understand a being or an entity or a situation, we are able to feel into it. We are able to create some form of alignment in terms of how we can act in order to better coexist with that part, to better accomplish what we want to accomplish, yes, but to do it in a way where everybody's on board. It's having concern for the whole as opposed to just having concern for whichever part is operating out of your 3D consciousness at any given time. Because so many times we're just operating from other parts. And these parts are fighting against each other and they're all at war. So I know I've kind of gone off on a little bit of a tangent, but my biggest message here is be gentle with yourself. Be kind. Be compassionate. Make room for that. That is where the power is. Every time you force, every time you push, every time you bulldoze yourself or abandon a part of you, that creates a reverberation that is going to cause that is going to be the cause of some effect that is going to come up later or that has already started brewing, and there's no resolution there. And sooner or later, those parts are going to ask for resolution. And then one day, you wake up and you realize why everything feels like chaos, why everything seems to be falling to pieces. It's because those parts were neglected. Those parts were forced. Those parts were put in the closet, swept under a rug, or put in the box. So come for yourself with compassion. Come with love. Be soft. Be gentle. Remember, that is so much closer to your true frequency, which is love. And yes, sometimes love has to express in more aggressive ways. Sometimes it's loving to set boundaries. Sometimes it's loving to go about things in a way that maybe we wouldn't expect. But it's time to be loving with ourselves, because that is only going to unite us closer to that higher perspective, that truth within us all, and that genuine divinity that will light the path for us, that will guide the way, that will open the roads. When we're tapped into that, there's like, it's inexplainable. The clarity is inexplainable. We know where we're going. And there may be challenges, there may be issues that we need to resolve, but nothing seems impossible and nothing seems too big or too harsh, because we're tapped into the ultimate guide, the ultimate guidance, the ultimate support, our safety, our security. That is our divinity. And that is our light in the darkness. But we have to go through the darkness and shine the light in there in order to tap in and unite with that very force. If it resonated, you know what to do. Tap on that like button, drop me a comment down below. I'd love to connect with you guys, and hit subscribe and the little notification bell. Until next time, I am Olivia for Via Frequency, signing out. Ta-ta for now.